Every day is a celebration for Latinas, especially Latinas in podcasting, and celebrating your voice and the power, the poder, la fuerza behind this voice that you have locked inside you is something that everyone should get to experience. And it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't.
It just has to be there.
It just has to be vocalized. And you can turn your mic up and down. You don't have to speak loudly, but you can be amplified.
Earlier this year, I went to Chicago for a Podcast Movement Evolutions conference where I was a speaker where I talked about YouTube for podcasting. But one of the highlights of that week was that I had a chance to sit down with Paulette Erato. Paulette is the founder of the Latinas in Podcast community and annual virtual summit. She's also a podcaster and she's the host of La Vida Más Chévere, the child-free Latina podcast. Paulette is dedicated to amplifying Latina perspectives and empowering women to own their narratives. As the founder of the Latinas in Podcast community, she creates space for education, inspiration, and real connection across the industry. This conversation is a powerful example of what it means to build your creative path with intention through community, connection, and purpose. Paulette, muchas gracias for joining me on this conversation. I'm Yesenia Bocanegra, video podcast and content creation coach, and this is Creative Made Podcast, a place where we talk about mindful content creation and purpose. Paulette, thank you so much for being on the podcast on Creative Made. We're here in Chicago at Podcast Movement. We had the chance to connect and meet, if you will, last summer during the Latinas in Podcasting Summit and stay connected through the past couple months with your beautiful community on Slack. But now we got to meet in real life.
It's so great.
It's wonderful in Chicago, and I just had to reach out to you and see if you wanted to hang out for a bit, hanguear un ratito, like we say in Puerto Rico.
I want to hanguar.
So thank you for being on the podcast. How are you?
Very welcome. Thank you. I am great. I'm great. Chicago is amazing. Even with all this rain, it's a beautiful backdrop for us today.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Photographers know their light.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring you on on the podcast because Creative Made the reason why I decided to create this podcast was to talk about, shine a light on the fact that we're all creatives. It's not just about being, the next Picasso or being a painter, the architect or whatnot. It's creativity from the standpoint of solving problems to make your life easier and happier.
Okay. I'm all about that.
Yeah, especially, I'm approaching my 40s. I'll turn 40s later this year, and I just want to simplify my life. So that's creativity right there.
Yeah, creative solutions.
Yes, absolutely.
Work smarter, not harder.
I know. Okay, so we're going to talk about I want to talk about a couple of things. One of them being the Latinas in Podcasting Summit, but I'll leave that for the last. But you're also a podcaster.
I am.
It's the La Vida Más Chévere, the child-free Latina. Tell me more about that.
La Vida Más Chévere was born out of the fact that there's very little representation, period, of child-free people in popular media that is positive. They're always seen as either dumb, overworked, mean. Like, think about Disney movies, what we feed to children at a very young age.
Yes.
The unmarried relative is usually the evil
La
guy.
tía.
Right, La tía. Or the sea witch in Ariel.
Yes.
Scar in The Lion King.
Yes.
And I have a real problem with that because not only are we not evil, are we not dumb, we're living really good lives that deserve some attention, some positive attention. And also, we're here as extra adults in the lives of children that do exist. And that's not something that we should take for granted. But that's only one part of what I talk about on La Vida Más Chévere. It's really about designing your best life. From the child-free perspective, sure, but there's so many things that as a culture, and being a Latina in the U.S., you straddle a couple different cultures because there's Latinidad as a whole.
Yep.
Then there's the heritage. I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican. And then I grew up here. And in Los Angeles, which is diversity squared.
Yes.
I love it. But at the same time, it's this weird little dance you have to do, especially as first-gen eldest daughter, whole nother layer.
Yep.
So to design my best life meant I had to unravel a lot of things I was taught early on. And that can look like, one, getting married and having children, going to college, buying the house, all of these milestones that are paved along the path to the American dream. But the American dream turned out to be a lot of bogus. And so the tagline of my show is to liberate ourselves from the toxic cultural brainwashing we've all grown up with so that we can design our best lives. Because there's a lot of toxic cultural BS out there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I love bringing on people who embody that spirit as well. Not everybody on the show is a child-free Latina. Most are.
Okay.
But it's about having conversations around how are you living your best life? And how is that outside of the norms of what we've been sold that happiness is guaranteed through?
Oh, I like that. I like that. I once interviewed for my Spanish podcast, Bloom Creativo. I interviewed my mom. It was an episode where I decided to interview her to celebrate Mother's Day. And well, my mom, she had myself, but she also had another daughter, my sister. And I asked her, how do you feel? Do you feel realized? How do you feel about having at least one daughter that doesn't want to have kids and culture and my mom, the women in my mom's side of the family, they are strong women. Like my mom, it's like, Mami, mi roca, you're my rock, Mommy. So, it's very interesting and very beautiful to have these conversations, especially when there's a lot of, you need to follow this, you need to do that. So we're paving our own way to being living that creative and that life that really fulfills us.
I also interviewed my mom and had never up until that point asked her the question, what is it like for you to have sacrificed all the things you did to come to this country, to build a life here when you didn't speak English, to then have a child who does not want children? Like, is that hard for you? And she said, no. I'm happy that you're happy.
Yes.
And my mom, even though she was disadvantaged in a lot of ways, she knows stuff. She can see stuff. She's intelligent. She could read between the lines. And she knew that if she just made sure we were taken care of, made sure we got an education so we would take advantage of all the things that life had to offer, we would be okay. And she was right. And my brother and I have an older brother as well, her stepson, but my half brother Dale and Eric, my younger brother, we all have vastly different lives. And we are all paving our own ways, but we don't compete with one another for attention from our parents. Yeah. We don't compete for resources. Like, we love one another.
That's beautiful.
And I don't know if that's unique to my family. I hope not. But I know that in a lot of families, especially when there's a child-free sibling, that person gets iced out in favor of the ones producing grandkids. And neither of my parents have ever done that to us. And she's my rock too. And we are our mother's daughters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love being able to enjoy this life that I have and building my business and traveling and meeting people. And I'm married as well. I don't have kids. I have 2 doggies. Those are my babies. And I have a niece and a nephew. And then my niece, oh my gosh, she's like a carbon copy of me in so many ways. And I see myself in her. Obviously, she looks so much like me, but like her character, her persona is very much like me at her age. So I feel that even though I don't have kids, like I want to do all these things for myself, for the younger self, but for her so that she can see, oh, Titi, she's doing all this stuff. Also, I really live up to the auntie, like the favorite aunt or like the best auntie life,
Absolutely.
That I take that very, very seriously.
Oh no, that is such an important role.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like I said, we cannot take for granted the people in our lives and in the lives of the people who are going to run these countries in the future generations, because we are all helping shape them. When my niece, I have 4 nibblings. Each of my brothers had 2 kids. The eldest is also a girl. So there's only one girl. There's 3 boys. And she also followed in a lot of the same footsteps as me.
Oh my gosh.
She's so freaking smart. I'm so proud of her. But when she was going away to college, she was doing like I did and going to a private college far away. And I thought about all the ways I felt like a fish out of water and all the ways that I wasn't prepared. And I didn't want her to feel that way. This isn't my kid.
Yeah.
But I was so invested in her not failing at the things I failed at. Maybe, she was going to stumble in her own way.
Right.
But she at least had someone who had walked that path that could set her up for success, like my parents did for me, right? And her parents did too.
Yep.
But it was still different.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah. So I wrote her a book called Benchmarks Are Bullshit. And it's a tiny little ebook. I even have it for sale on my website, so anybody can have it.
Oh, but links here.
And I sent it to a ton of friends. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they're like, I needed to read it at the age of 40. So,
oh my gosh.
And I healed a part of myself writing that, because that little girl, that 18-year-old going off to college and then dropping out of school, like I failed in a bunch of different ways, but those lessons stayed with me, and I could pay it forward to her.
Yeah.
And each of the kids, as they've gone off to college, they get a copy of this book, maybe slightly updated. But the one overarching thing I want everyone to take away from this, and this applies to everyone, no matter what age you are, is that benchmarks are bullshit. The metrics of success are for you to determine, not capitalism, not this, that, and the other thing. You don't have to be a straight A student. That isn't going to guarantee you happiness in life.
No, it's not.
And at the end of this life, I want you to look back and say that you were happy. And so success should be measured in units of happiness.
Oh, I love that.
And that was the big lesson in the book. So now everyone has it.
I love it. Success should be measured in happiness.
In units of happiness. I got that from a movie. I can't claim that one.
Okay.
So whoever wrote it was obviously brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. Credit to them. Yeah. Okay. Wow. And to add to that, you could have a plan and you try it and it doesn't work, and then try something else, and don't feel discouraged for trying and quote unquote not succeeding, because those lessons, those hurdles of not succeeding are really paving the path for you for your next step, where it's helping you build more strength for you and give you the tools that you need for when whatever it is in life that's gonna hit you, that's gonna be the thing for you. You have all the tools to be resilient.
Exactly.
And successful.
There's something I've talked about on the podcast before, way back when I first started it. It was in the same vein as what you're doing here with creativity and helping everybody discover theirs. Because my last name's Erato, I had originally named my podcast The Maker Muse, because Erato is the muse of erotic poetry and other things. But, she's one of the Greek muses, so that's where I went with that. But if you're not failing, you're not trying. And I read a book by Dan Norris called Create or Hate. And he talks about how failure is just a data point.
Yes.
And it's not, we shouldn't treat the failures as the end all be all. Because if you hadn't failed, then you wouldn't have tried. And you wouldn't have tried something else. And that's where the success comes in the trying something different and the finding creative solutions.
Yes.
So think about what failure can look like. We have failed at a ton of different things in our lives, from walking. You did not stand up and walk, much less run, your very first time. You kept falling, you kept stumbling. And when you finally did it, the people around you clapped.
Yes.
Which is why we should always clap when the airplane lands.
Yes.
Because sometimes it doesn't. So we should always clap when the
Especially
airplane lands. Yeah, exactly. We're Puerto Rican. We clap when the airplane lands.
Yeah, that regardless, especially lately.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I'm saying? That that was all failure up until it wasn't.
Yes.
And running, dancing, skipping, that's all advanced walking.
Yeah, very much.
You wouldn't be able to dance or swim or skip or jump rope if you hadn't failed at learning to walk.
Yep. I started swimming when I was a kid, and then the first time that I jumped into the water, it looked like a frog, not elegant. Eventually, I got better.
Yeah, and you only get better by doing.
Exactly. And I think I'm commenting on this, and then that will be a segue for the other portion about community. Is I'm from Puerto Rico originally, and then I moved to the States to complete my studies, and I moved to California. Language wasn't a barrier for me because my dad was from New York, and he would always have us watch TV in English, cable TV, nothing in Spanish. He'd watch TV in English so we could get better and learn the language. But, coming from Puerto Rico, there was only, at least in my house, was this whole idea of, when we move to the States, cuando nos vayamos para afuera, cuando nos mudemos para afuera, or when we go to the States. And, as an adult, I decided to move and study in California. So a lot of people and family members also have moved, and some of them decided to come back. And that's okay. But sometimes they were looked down on. It was like very interesting conversation up there.
The gods
The
are
gods.
fighting.
Oh, see, you brought in everybody.
Everybody's here for us today.
Yes. So a lot of friends and family went to the States, moved to the States, and then came back, and they were looked down upon, like, oh, you didn't make it, or ay bendito, viniste para atrás, you came back, it didn't work out for you, and some of them would feel like, oh, I didn't make it. But you know what? Maybe that first time that you decided to move, it wasn't for you. It wasn't maybe not the good location or whatnot. But then you tried again and everything worked out. In my case, my thought was, I'm moving to California to finish my studies. After that, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And just having that mindset of being open to let's see what happens. That's where that's where you're opening up the pathway for creativity, for problem solving. And this brings me to the other portion of community. I think when you're moving to a new place, whether it is a different country or just a different town or part of town, you're starting out kind of new. And community is such an important part of life, especially when you're new, because, if you're in your hometown, you've got college friends or your whole, school friends and your family. But then when you're new, it's a whole different thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you founded Latinas in Podcasting Summit, but this has a little bit of a backstory. Can you tell me a little bit about where that idea came about?
Yeah. So we're at Podcast Movement right now in Chicago, 2025. But I went to my first podcast movement in Los Angeles, where I live, in 2022. And I had just started that podcast that I was telling you about. And I had 3, maybe 4 episodes out. I was a tiny little baby fish in this massive ocean. And I walked in, again, we're in Los Angeles. It's in the name, it's in Spanish, and there were no brown people. The brown people were the service workers. The attendees, nah. And that felt weird. And that felt unequal. Like why? There's brown people podcasting. Where are we? And I've been to this event several times since, and every time we're a little bit more visible.
Yeah.
Because diversity initiatives help.
Yes.
They grow your bottom line, but there was still no critical mass.
Yeah.
And this event is expensive. And this is the little one. You have to, even when it was in Los Angeles, the tickets cost money. You have to buy food.
Yeah.
Pay to park. It's $50 a day at
Drive
that
there.
particular hotel. Drive in, wear and tear. Maybe you're hitting tolls. Mine are $15 in each direction every day. And I was like, so all of that, plus there's no one here who looks like me. And sure, the education might be great, but it really felt like there was this huge gate keeping people without those resources to get in out. And that bothers me because I don't believe in gatekeeping. Sure, there's certain levels of excellence
Right.
that, for professions,
Yep,
like a doctor, I don't want a doctor operating on me if they haven't gone to med school.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But in podcasting, it's not med school.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a doctorate to start a podcast. You just need a little bit of know-how and encouragement.
And a microphone.
And or just your earbuds,
Yeah, exactly. But there's a microphone there. So you use a microphone.
Use a microphone if you can. And so the evolution of it, the seed for Latinas in podcasting as a community, as its own summit, was planted that very first day. And so I connected with other Latinas when I could in the podcasting space and just kept feeling like we deserve something like this too, that isn't gatekept, that is freely accessible, because that's what I want to do. So in a previous life, I was an event planner. And I thought, how can I bring my love of podcasting and my love of sharing resources to other people who deserve to know this too, without all of the BS? How can I lower the barrier of entry? Oh, wait, I'm an event planner. Let's have a free event. So Latinas in Podcasting as an event was born. And by the end of the 3rd day at Podcast Movement in 2024, I had bought the URL. I had started thinking about what this was going to look like. And it took several months and several iterations before I had the full vision. But when I landed on having a free event, it blossomed in a way I could not have imagined. I could have hoped. I'm sure
Yeah.
there was hopes and dreams there. I can't even remember because they've been so far exceeded by participation of women like you. So I put out a call for speakers after I ran it through a few friends in the industry. Not all Latinas, but most of them were. But they were trusted individuals. And that's the thing about community. You need to feel like you can ask people for help.
Yes.
And you need to be able to lean on them for their various different expertise that you don't have. Like, I can run an event, but I can't talk about all the issues that people need to hear about. Like, I don't know anything about sound design. I'm not a great editor. So I found the people around me who could do that. And when I asked them, do you think you could speak on this topic for 30 minutes? Every single person said to me, absolutely, when? And that's when I knew this was going to have legs. So we still had some holes in the schedule I wanted to fill, because what I really wanted was to target the new and early career podcaster.
Yes.
It was basically me in 2022 and all the questions I had. So, I found all the people who could speak to these topics, and then whoever wasn't available is like, okay, I have a call for speakers open. And people like yourself answered. We didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And you answered and you provided such beautiful proposals. Everybody who came to speak just knocked it out of the park in just the proposal phase. And I couldn't say no to anybody. I really couldn't. I had more people than I bargained for.
Wow.
And that's because it resonated with people. People realized that, one, I can talk about this, and two, it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be out there and available. And so all of these women gave me their free time and helped promote it. And then we had this 2-day event where people showed up.
Yes.
They bought tickets, even though it's free. It's a free event. You buy a ticket to have extended access for the year. And they did that. And somehow we got sponsors. Some of my friends donated money. And it's just, people just believed.
Yes.
They just believed in the vision of lowering the barrier of entry for underrepresented voices. I finally had the words. The words were to lower the barrier of entry for Latinas and other underrepresented voices in this space so that they could connect, collaborate, and launch successfully. Because again, success is determined by you. And then one of our speakers, Monica, she and I are on stage together later this week. She spoke about how success can look a bunch of different ways. And I can't say no to that. That's my ethos. So I was just so excited. And then the day came when all of those sessions were available to everyone, right? Oh. And watching social media. So I'm watching my email like a hawk, waiting for the tech issues to start. There's always tech issues. And nothing's happening. So then I go on social media and people are posting reels of stuff that they're watching. People were on a train with their laptops, or they're on vacation somewhere with these beautiful backdrops on their laptop and a session. I'm like, I built that.
Yeah.
And it just like, I was crying. I was crying for 2 whole days. Like, oh my God, we had a kickoff session that was live.
Yes.
So the speakers came to that. Attendees came to that. They all got to talk. We had a closing out fiesta.
Yes.
And we raffled off prizes from our sponsors. Again, that magically appeared. People just believed in the mission. And there's no going back now. The cat is out of the bag. We've opened Pandora's box. Latinas in Podcasting is a vibrant and living community.
Yes, it is.
That also has this great summit attached to it in October.
Yes. Well, before we go into the summit, so that you can talk a little bit about that, I would just want to say thank you for inviting me to the Latinas in Podcasting Summit. I really, as a speaker for the event, I really enjoyed everything, and the level of detail and care that you put into putting it all together to communicate with us, and then to make it all accessible for this community, and the community that you built in Slack. That was part of it. I just loved. I felt like I was in a live event, well, although it wasn't, and everybody was like, posting and sharing stories on threads on Slack, on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I just loved it. So thank you.
Oh, thank
for
you
doing
so
that.
much.
Thank you.
It's been such a treat. There has been nothing bad about this. I cannot point to anything that has made me unhappy, because the response has been so wildly positive. And, I had hopes and dreams that it would be,
Of course.
And, I went into this with a positive mindset that, even if we only have 10 people show up, those 10 people are going to get access to stuff that they wouldn't have otherwise necessarily. Now, you're doing the same session here that you did for us for free, that people can still access. And you're knocking it out of the park. She freaking kills it. She kills it every time. I'm just so glad I got to see it first. And then I got to see it again and see how a live audience reacts to it.
Oh, that was...
Because you freaking nail it every single time. Every single time. You're so good at this.
Thank you.
And I'm so proud to be a part of that journey with you. Because the better you do, the better all Latinas in podcasting do. Yeah. Because you are a Latina in podcasting and you represent all of us. And we all represent all of us.
Yes.
And also you're just showing everyone coming up behind you that they can do this too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, and thank you for the community. Like,
I love our community.
I love it. I love it. I started creating content in English. Well, English and Spanish, and I stopped in Spanish, and then I went back to English only, and then I decided, no, let me just do Spanish as well. And I've been doing it for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years now, and it's been a way to reconnect with my own roots and my heritage and my Latinidad, my mi español, and being able to be a part of a community like this is just beautiful. It's so beautiful. And the fact that we're everywhere is even cooler.
We are everywhere. We're not just in the US, which is what's super cool. And what really exploded the community aspect of it, because sure, Slack existed and people got into Slack.
Right.
But what really brought us together was, 2 weeks after the summit was the election. And the day after, I knew leading up to it, things were... whatever way it went,
right?
People were going to need space to talk about it, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so I put it out there. It was like, everybody who attended, who was on our newsletter, open Zoom room Wednesday morning. Come as you are. Yeah. I'll keep it open for a few hours so that if you need to feel like you're not alone, we're here. And so many women showed up that day. Some were crying. Some were angry. I actually made an episode about this, but we were all there and we all held each other virtually. It was like a big virtual hug. And that was the catalyst to continue having weekly live events. And so we do. Every Wednesday, we have a co-working block.
Cafecito.
Cafecito's on Fridays.
Oh, that's right.
Co-working is on Wednesday. And people show up and do whatever work they have to do. They do their taxes, they work on their episodes. We work for 25 minutes, we chat for 5, and we continue that for 2 hours. And then on Fridays, we have cafecito, and you show up with whatever you want to drink. It's just an hour to
connect,
chatear, charlar.
Yeah.
Hangar.
I love
is that how you say it? So my Spanish is trash.
Hangar.
See, my Spanish is trash. Even though I also lived in Puerto Rico. So those live events happen every Wednesday, Friday, and people know they show up as they are. Beautiful. You don't have to pretend to be anything you're not, because that's the other thing. The really nice thing about being with other Latinas, whether you speak English, whether you feel Hispanic enough or Latina enough or whatever, we're just going to accept you as you are.
Yes, that's very important.
Because I know what it's like to feel like a no sabo kid. I know what it's like to feel like you don't belong. I know what it's like to feel like no eres de aquí o de allá. I mean, it's just like I get it. And there's some things I don't get. I don't know what it's like to be an immigrant. I don't know, well, kind of, but not to the US. I don't know what it's like to, have to struggle and have your kids, shoulder some of that burden. I don't, but there's other people in the community that do. Yeah. And they're all welcome. And we all connect with one another. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, nobody does.
I don't know about video podcasting, but you do. So I know I can ask you.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I was explaining to a vendor here, and they were talking about how everybody wants to be the best and they all want to come out on top. And I said, that's the difference between a patrilineal, pyramid structure, a patriarchal structure that we live in, and a matrilineal structure, which is what my community is. It's a circle. Yeah. It's not a pyramid, because in the circle, you can connect to any point. Everybody brings their resources in. Yes. Right. It feels weird to say, I'm the founder of Latinas in podcasting, because then I sound like a dude bro, which I'm not. But at the same time, like, that word is
it's big.
It's big. It's not just big. It's got like a lot of connotations. But I am. Yeah. I am the founder of Latinas in podcasting. You should be proud of that. Thank you. I am. But what I'm most proud of is the fact that the community continues to grow in a circle. The community is a circle, and it will always remain a circle. Otherwise, axe me, because then I'm doing something wrong.
That's part of the legacy of what you're building.
Yeah.
That's part of the legacy.
And I just love it. I love it so much. And it hasn't even been a year.
Beautiful.
But it was 3 years in the making. And to finally realize a vision and have women who are so knowledgeable and so strong and so beautiful and develop such beautiful content as part of it, freely giving it away is so magical, because a community can't exist without its people.
Yep, exactly.
Like, we're not a cult. I'm not a cult leader.
Right.
We're all here to lift all of us up. And I know that sounds like so flowery and it can sound like so unreal and like bullshit, but I promise you it's not. Come to a cafecito and you will find out. Like, it's not bullshit. It is the truth.
I love
and people continue to show up even when they have nothing they necessarily want to say or add. They just want to hear and they just want to connect.
Mm-hmm. And everybody experiences and participates in very different ways.
Yeah.
You know, some people are very active, very in front. Some people are a little bit more shy or in the back, but they're still there, and they're still getting something from that, and they're still feeling that they are part of something.
Yeah,
and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit more about this year's event.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever you can.
We're still early stages. The date is locked. It's October 16th and 17th, because the other thing that's really important for me, being a U.S. Latina, is that Hispanic Heritage Month is this weird time because it splits September and October. And there's a reason for that, the legacy of the U.S. government. But it exists.
Yes.
And for me, it's really important to position this event to be the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, of Latina Heritage Month, because we're continuing the celebration. Every day should be a heritage day for us.
Yes.
Like, every day we should be celebrating what makes us unique in that way, and the strength that we bring to this country.
Yes.
Which
Absolutely.
is something that's highly debatable right now, right? They want to pretend we don't bring anything to this country. I mean, they still keep taking my taxes, but whatever. And as a child-free person, I pay way more.
That's a whole different conversation.
But I'm glad to, because an educated populace is necessary for a strong society.
I agree with that.
And we all need roads and things like that. So
yeah.
my point is that we cap Hispanic Heritage Month in order to remind everyone around us that every day is a celebration for Latinas, especially Latinas in podcasting, and celebrating your voice and the power, the poder, la fuerza behind this voice that you have locked inside you is something that everyone should get to experience. And it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't.
It just has to be there.
It just has to be vocalized. And you can turn your mic up and down. You don't have to speak loudly, but you can be amplified.
Yes.
And that's all I want to do.
Oh, this is beautiful, Paulette. Okay, this is perfect. Paulette, thank you so very much for this beautiful conversation, for this beautiful community that you've built. Thank you so very much. It's been such a pleasure to meet you in person.
Yeah, because everything's virtual these days, right?
Like, it's a virtual summit.
It's a virtual summit, so we didn't actually get to meet until now. And I hope one day that Latinas in podcasting also can host an event like this. But for now, we'll keep it to Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so very much, Paulette. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Creative Made Podcast. See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.